We're going to get started. So, hi everybody. I'm Dustin Rawls, Tennessee Higher Education Commission. So we are here for a webinar regarding direct admissions and how it relates to private schools going into our statewide launch for next year. So, just a couple of logistic notes before we get started. It's being recorded. We will share it. We want you to take advantage of the chat feature to chat in questions as they appear in your mind as we go through the presentation. I will say that as many times as we've done this, you may want to actually write your question down and maybe not chat it in. My experience is we tend to answer most chatted questions with the presentation itself. If you may perhaps just be a little patient until we get there, we will give you an opportunity at the end for any Q&A if we didn't cover anything. But if you need clarity, please ask for clarity along the way. But if we're on one topic and you're asking something about something else, chances are we'll get there. So use your chat feature. As I mentioned, unmute yourself, raise a hand. I'll be monitoring the whole thing. We got some people in here to help us monitor it. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered before today because we want to be able to cover all things direct admissions and how that will impact your schools going to this next year. So let me introduce my colleague, Mark Pativioke, who is the program manager for our statewide direct admissions program. He's going to run you through the basics of it, and we will do managed Q&As as we go. So Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. As Dustin said, I'm Mark Pativioke. I'm the Direct Admissions Program Manager. And so we're excited to have you all on. It is very big for us as we're moving into the statewide launch for us to be in the private, to move into the private schools. And so just for a little bit of clarity and introduction to the program, last year, we had a research project that started with us, TBR, University of Wisconsin, and Harvard's Graduate School of Education. I think their name is Making Caring Common. We did a research project last year using the private or the public schools here in Tennessee. We had 255 participating high schools. They were randomly selected. We had a control group and all different kinds of groups that got different treatments. And so we launched that last year with them. This year in year two, we're moving to a statewide launch. So we've added all state aid eligible seniors in the class of 2027. So that does include private and homeschool students in our year two launch. So last year we sent around 45,000 letters. To be exact, we sent 45,046 letters out to the participating seniors last year. With aid, with the institutions they were eligible for based off of GPA and ACT, and some of them got just a normal letter with just institutions, and then all the way up to aid offered by the institutions, and some groups got texting and all these different things. And so last year we sent the letters out in December. This year we'll give you a timeline on that. But then all the students have to do is claim their spot at the institutions that they're interested in. No application fees. It's all based on their academic records. And the institutions would then start the admissions process with the student. And so we communicated that information out through a letter, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Again, those letters went out in December, and this year they're going to start going out in September. And so what does that mean? So that, with the statewide launch, we're expanding to all state aid eligible seniors in the class of 2027. All students will be presented with some sort of financial aid on their letter. That includes state aid. So there will be information about Promise, Hope, GAMS, if they're eligible based off their academic record, and then whatever financial aid they're eligible for, merit-based aid, they're eligible for at the institutions. All but one institution has provided us with that information. And this year we've expanded the number of institutions that are a part of the program. So this is just a bit of information for you all. The letters only went out to seniors or to the schools to the students last year. This year we're going to be double mailing. So you as a counselor at the school will get a letter mailed to you also. And that will be in bulk. So if you have 10 students that are eligible and are part of it and get a letter, at each data pool, they're going to get a letter, and you will get a letter mailed to you. And then we do have address verification. So this is very big for us because we are mailing letters to the students' houses, making sure that they have a viable address put in their Tennessee Promise application. Here are participating institutions. So yeah, a lot of this is new for you all. So if you need this list, it is on our website. But some newer schools this year are MTSU, Welch, Johnson, Maryville, Southern Adventist. And so we've added quite a few for this year. And then all TBR, and so all TCATs and all community colleges are part of the program also. I did see a question in the chat. So how we get students to be a part of it, they complete their Tennessee Promise application. And once they complete their Tennessee Promise application, that information comes to us, and then we get their GPA and ACT scores, which I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then we generate their letter. Their letter will go out to them. They will scan the letter. And on there, there's a QR code they'll scan. It will go to an enrollment page where they choose the schools that they're interested in. And then that information comes back to us. We put it in the FAST system for the institutions to then pull that information. And then the institutions will follow up with the student on their next steps. So we do get our information from 5 different places, and there are 2 of them that are like the key triggers for us. But when the student creates their THEX student portal, that's the first place we start gathering information. That's where they put in their address, their name, social security number, and all that. That's where we start to get information. We then know they're eligible for direct admissions by them doing their Tennessee Promise application. That's our second place that we get information. And then the third place we get information is from the high schools, and that is their Hope TELS 6th semester GPA on a 4.0 scale. So if you're a school that provides that you provide GPAs, the Hope TELS GPA to us for Hope purposes, we will use that as the student's GPA for the schools to generate their letter. Once we have those 2 things, we then start generating the letter if we have an ACT on file, which we get from ACT. Then their letter generates with all the institutions that they're eligible for, and that information will go out to them. So I know that was a lot going there. THEX student portal, the way they get in to be a part of the program is by doing their Tennessee Promise application. Then when we get their Hope TELS 6th semester GPA, that is a trigger for us to start generating the letter. If at that point in time we have an ACT score, it will generate their letter based off of all those 3 things. But if we do not have an ACT score, it's going to generate their letter only off of GPA. We get GPA scores straight from ACT as a state entity. We get that. It gets sent to us. It is their highest composite GPA score. So we don't hold subscores. We don't hold super scores. We only get the highest composite. So if they've taken the test multiple times and say, it's 3 different scores, our system only holds the highest. It doesn't hold all 3. So when we share that information with the institution, it is only their highest composite ACT score. And again, so they'll get their letter, they'll claim their spot using the QR code and finishing the enrollment page, which we will also talk about here in a little bit. and then that information comes to us and then goes to the university, and the universities will have follow-up communication on next steps. Any questions about just the GPA, ACT, or just the promise application, or these 5 places at this point?
Yes. Is there a particular GPA or ACT score requirement for them to utilize this?
So no. So any student can utilize the whole program. It's based just off of that score, and all the different universities have provided us different requirements. And if anything, if they say they have a 0 ACT and a 0 GPA, then they would still be eligible for our TCATs and our community colleges. So they will see those institutions as an opportunity for them. If they're eligible for 4 years and aid, it will show that. And I will show the letters here in a little bit, but there is no GPA minimum or maximum. Well, there's a maximum, it's 4.0, but there's no minimum. They will get a letter based off of the GPA and ACT that we have on file. I'm going to be wary of using weighted versus unweighted. It is the state or uniform grading policy based off of state for Hope and TELS purposes on a 4.0 scale. So this is kind of the timeline that we've been operating on. So we opened up Promise early this year. We opened it up April 1st. And so as of today, we had around 16,668 Promise applications that were completed. I imagine that will keep rising as students are getting back in the building and counselors are getting access to students. And so again, that's trigger number 1. Trigger number 2 is the Hope GPA that we've been talking about. So once we have that from the high schools, then the student will be in the process of getting their letter and moving forward. That opened up May 27th. We have a file for that GPA upload that we can share with you all. We did send it out on the May 27th date, but I know that a few of us may have been on summer break, and that's okay. We will send it out to you. But the big thing is August 17th is our first data pool. So when we hit that August 17th date, whoever has an ACT or a Tennessee Promise application and a GPA on file at that point in time, their letter will be generated and mailed. And so we need the GPA before then to make sure that your students are locked in, and we're moving forward with that. The next 3 data pools are September 8th, October 5th, and November 2nd. Just a couple of notes on that. September 8th is the only Tuesday, and that's because the 7th is Labor Day, and that's Monday. And then November 2nd is our close of Tennessee Promise. At that point in time, if a student has done their promise, but we don't have a GPA, their letter is going to be generated based off the information we do have. And so if we do have an ACT score on file at that point in time, then their letter will be generated based off of just the ACT. If we don't have anything in terms of academic record on file at that point, then they will get our TBR letter, which is the 2 TCATs, or the TCAT and the community college letter. Any question about the timeline? Another key point, sorry. If they get a letter in, say, the August 17th data pool, they won't get another one in the September 8th and then October 5th. They will get 1 letter total. So once they get that initial letter, that is their letter. They're not going to continually get any more. So this is what oh, go ahead.
So does that mean that the person who submits all their information, basically a complete version of the information, gets in the later dates, will get a better chance of getting more acceptances?
Not really. And it's because like their GPA is not going to shouldn't change from from when we get that information. I know that, you know, some students may have summer school or something like that, and their GPA may change a little bit.
But the
But for
ACT
the
score.
but the ACT scores, so it does take a little bit of time for the ACT to get us new scores. By the time that we get to the first data pool, we should have the June ACT scores. Now, if they take it again in September or October, we probably will not have those new ACT scores even by the November date. So that's kind of why we are also not using the ACT score as a trigger, because by the time we have the ACT scores that like they took over the summer, we wouldn't be getting the September or October ACTs by the time November hits. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. We are an online school. We have some international students who log in and you know, pursue our program, a U.S. high school program. I know this is only for the residents of Tennessee, U.S. citizens, or, you know, like the legal permanent residents. If they go through the system, I guess they're not even allowed to go through the system, or if they do, can they at least apply to like private universities, even state universities, I guess?
So
like
are you talking
program?
about in-state students or out-of-state students?
Out-of-state students, international students.
So your out-of-state students will have to continue through their normal application process. This is mainly for Tennessee residents. Okay. This is only for Tennessee residents who are state aid eligible.
Is Vanderbilt or Belmont in here?
Vanderbilt and Belmont is not on the list.
So we have to go through the regular application process.
So the regular application process for those institutions. So this does bring up a good point about making sure that ACT scores are sent to the institutions, because some institutions do super score and they do need sub scores, you know, for placement and all the things. But they also just need it for verification to make sure they can move forward with the process. That also goes for transcripts, because there are some institutions that do use weighted GPA. But for our purposes in making sure that everything is seamless and works well and is factual on the information that we have, it was easiest for us to use the uniform grading policy on a 4.0 scale. That being said, institutions do want transcripts and they do want weighted GPAs. If you have them, send the transcripts and ACT scores, because ours is just like what is on our letter is a baseline. They may be eligible for more. As long as they maintain what they have, it shouldn't go less. It should always go more or stay the same, as long as they maintain their academic level that we receive. So this is what the letter looks like. And just a few little notes about this. At the top, the TCAT in the community college is the closest one to their high school, closest proximity to the high school zip code. So there may be some weirdness, and we all know TCATs have like the multiple satellite locations and all that. And like they may be closer to a satellite location, but it's going to give them the main campus that is closest to their high school zip code. And so I used to work at Stratford High School. So I'm thinking about like, you know, TCAT Nashville. They also have a TCAT Portland. The students in Portland aren't going to see TCAT Nashville if it's the closest, or like they may see a different TCAT if it's closer to the main campus, if that makes sense. There are a few schools that have just some clarification on their application. So like MTSU, if you've had a student apply to MTSU, their normal process holds true. So like they still have to be accepted all the way through the process with them and have a scholarship application done by December 1st. That is like, that's the way MTSU works. That's how it will continue to work. So they must claim their spot and follow through with the process and get their, I think it's called True Blue account, and do their scholarship application to be eligible. And then the other one is UTC. UTC, they have to have claimed their spot and start the application or start their admissions file by December 1st, and they must have UTC scholarship application done by February 1st. Those are the only two that have those dates. Everything else is fair game. And so the program, it opens when they get their letter, and their THEX student portal. I haven't talked about that, but on their THEX student portal, there'll also be a link. So they'll have two different ways that they can get access to this enrollment page that you're seeing here. So by scanning the QR code that was on the previous page, or by logging into their THEX student portal. There will be like a banner at the top that says, click here to access your enrollment page. They'll click there and they will come to this enrollment page. This enrollment page matches their letter. And so if they're eligible for 5 schools, on their enrollment page, there will be 5 schools. If they're eligible for 5 school and 2 aid, it will match. And so they won't see every university here and they can select them all. They will only see the ones that are on this that are on their letter. And so so then once they get to this page, they'll start with community colleges, or they'll start with TCATs. They can select 2 TCATs. It will show every single TCAT across the state of Tennessee, but they can select the 2 TCATs that they would like to attend. They can select 0. They can select 1, no more than 2. And then same thing with the community colleges, which is the next page. They can select 2 community colleges. And then the next page has the institutions that they're eligible for. They can select up to 5. This is a kind of where it's good to say, if they've already applied to the school, they do not have to select them on direct admissions. If they've already applied and they're working through that process, they can just keep working through that process. They can then select a different school on direct admissions and keep moving forward. And so then they will ask a few more questions past that, like we ask a few more questions. If it's not universal across all students or across all institutions, I'm looking at this one. For instance, ETSU asked if you've been convicted of a felony. When we went to put that on our enrollment page to ask that question, a few of the institutions were like, please, Mark, do not put that on the enrollment page, because if you put that on the enrollment page, we're out, because you're now providing us information that we need to act on, and we don't want that. And so we did not ask that question on our enrollment page, but we do ask questions like veteran status of parents, veteran status of the student. And you can see on this, it says, are you registered for the selective service? Those questions are added to our enrollment page. And some of them are being asked again by the institution because we can't match their wording. We use the wording that helps majority of schools, but sometimes the wording needs to be asked in a different way for the institution. So they may ask those questions again. This is important. You guys weren't a part of year 1. This is okay. This is not an application. If they are asking for the student to go back and fill out their original application, they should not be doing that. That we've talked with the institutions. They shouldn't be asking the students to do their application again. Them claiming the spot through the enrollment page should be the start of their application. If they get asked these questions or like have a supplemental page, I saw something asked about an essay. We have asked that if they have an essay, that it not be a part of our application for direct admissions. There may be something though, like an affirmation of faith or a faith-based statement that they need to acknowledge. Those type things, those are on the institutions for them to ask for. But But for us, we will not house it on our side. They will collect that information on their side. But again, that is okay. But if they're sending your student to a traditional application on their website, we're asking for institutions not to do that. So once a student claims their spot, the institutions should reach out and they'll start to see things like this, or an email saying, hey, congratulations, we need a transcript and your ACT scores. It does vary over institutions in what they're asking for, past them claiming their spot with us. So again, some schools may have an affirmation of faith or a faith-based statement or any number of things. And that will come from them through communication, through the email. So it's very important that not only is the address verified, that it's their address for the letter, but that their email is a true email that they have access to, because then they will get emails from us and the institutions to that email that they provide. So making sure that those two pieces of information are correct is huge. Any questions up to this point about process, institutions reaching out, or the letter or the enrollment page?
I'm caught. Am I unmuted, or I'm unmuted? I'm caught up on all the chat questions, so you're good to proceed.
And so this is what our GPA file for the high schools looks like. There have been a few just like color-coded changes, but this is where we would get the sixth semester Hope Tells GPA on a 4.0 scale. And then it would be supplied to us through our form stack that is secure. You can copy and paste into this. So if you need this, just let me know. I will send it out to you. But you can copy and paste into this. So in columns A, B, C, and D, those will auto-populate, or those are where you can copy and paste. E will auto-populate. If you try to put any kind of data in there, it's going to give you an error code and ask for a password. That's to make sure that we can match student up, because we match it through these five criteria. So definitely last name, first name. If we have a middle initial, date of birth, and then the school CEB code, that's how we connect the student to a GPA. And then we pull the GPA off of this. So having that column E be just password protected is huge for us. So you would select which high school you're submitting for in the red bar, and then that will auto-populate the rest of the columns for you all. So again, this is just kind of an example. Select Anderson County. You plug the information in, and then column E will auto-populate. If you have a GPA score that's higher than a 4.0, it's going to give you a red box. If it goes below a 4.0, it's going to give you a red box. And then as you can see, cell E5 is now highlighted and says submit. That's where you would click and submit to our form stack. Just so you know, when you first get this file, that you cannot see that submit link. Once you populate all the information in there and it's correct, then it will let you submit. Any questions about the GPA upload? I saw some people needed it. Email me. I think Dustin put my email in there. I will send you the GPA upload. And so what are kind of our next steps? Promise applications. That's how a student gets involved in us, and that's how we start to know the student is eligible for the program. Then we start to generate the letter when we get the Hope Tells GPA. Making sure their address and their email are correct in their THEC student portal, and early action target date. So that August 17th pull, it will take 20 business days from there for the student to get their letter. So they should get it in the middle of September. Dustin is going to talk about that, about college awareness and exploration application month. Then we, at the state have a partnership with NSC for transcript exchange. We were kind of talking about that earlier. That is our partnership with that organization, and it is a way for the institutions to get transcripts. If you have a different way at your school or whatever that you all share transcripts with institutions, that is totally okay. This is just another mechanism that we saw was a touch point that we could help the institutions from year 1 to year 2. So Dustin did a lot of great work over the summer in getting NSC on and moving forward with creating this process for institutions to be able to request transcripts. But again, it's there for us. It is a great tool for us to be able to share the transcripts. But if you have a process at your school, we don't want to disrupt that. You can keep moving forward with that. Any questions up to this point? Dustin, do you want to talk? Oh, question.
So yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna we're gonna slow down for a second. Let's take some questions. Take a deep breath. I can only imagine you all have never received this information. You're getting it, and it's a lot. We know quite well what we're talking about, and some of you are hearing it for the first time. So let's slow down. Unmute or chat in. What questions do you have that we need to provide clarity at this point before we plow forward with some additional information?
I have a question. So what is the latest date? Because I know my seniors haven't signed up for Tennessee Promise yet. So what's the latest date they can do that and still be a part of this?
November 2nd.
November 2nd. So they need to have their ACT done like ASAP, and they need to have Tennessee Promise signed up for that no later than November 2nd.
Yes, that is the final data pool. We have 3 more prior to that, which is August 17th, September 8th, and October 5th. So if they want to be on the front end of getting all the information and being able to claim their spot as early as possible, then September or August 17th is that target date. And then there will be another group of letters that start to go out being pulled and populated on that September 8th, and then another group of letters on October 5th, and then November 2nd is the very last date to be a part of the program in terms of, getting Tennessee Promise and all that done. Sorry, Dustin.
You're good. So yeah, we're slowing it down. We're answering questions. So let me just go back through some that are coming through chat, then you're welcome to unmute. So just for clarity, sorry if you missed it, if the GPAs are uploaded in FAFSA in a senior year, does it take place someplace else? Yeah, so the GPA upload, we just kind of tried to cover that a minute ago. So there is a spreadsheet that we can share with you that you'll enter in the data that Mark just covered. And once you enter in the data, then the link becomes live. That is a secure FTP drop within inside that Excel document where you can upload your GPAs directly to us. So that is how that mechanism will work. How do the students access direct admissions? Didn't get all the information. Essentially, I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but we need at least 2 pieces of information for a student to receive a letter. Need their Tennessee Promise application, and we need their GPA. As long as we have Tennessee Promise application or GPA, then the state, us, will generate a letter that we will send to your students at their home address, and they'll have a QR code that they will scan, and it will send them to a link or a page online where they interact with our direct admissions form. We're going to send backup copies of those letters to you all, to the schools, where you can have them on file. Should a student lose their letter or be at school without their letter, then you can provide that letter to your student. Additionally, the students can log into their THEX student portal, and which is formerly known as the TSAC student portal. They'll log into their THEX student portal. There will be a link inside their portal that will take them to the direct admissions enrollment form. Do they need to do something on TSAC portal for direct? Yes. So inside their THEX student portal, they need to apply for Promise. So there's 2 requirements for direct admissions: the Tennessee Promise application and the GPA. Without those 2 pieces of information, the students will not receive letters. So if we have the Promise app and a GPA at a minimum, then every student will receive a letter to the TBR institutions in the state. If we receive their ACT because they previously taken it, then we share that information with the participating schools. The schools then decide if they want to directly admit that student and award them any financial aid at that point in the form of a scholarship.
So I just want to jump in here real quick.
Go for it.
I'm new to this. And so the thing I haven't heard and I need clarity on is or from what I'm understanding is that the value of this is to give our seniors, Tennessee seniors, a head start on college applications and college interest, or colleges to be interested in them. The old school way of going directly through college applications still exists, but this provides, to me, a jump start on basically the beginning of a senior year for students to figure out, hey, where am I going to go to school? Am I going to school? What options are out there? Is it a trade school? Is it a tech school? Is it a university? Is it a private school? And this just helps in that process. Is that correct?
Jeff, great question. So Mark has done a fantastic job of covering all the what we did last year, what we're doing this next year, the what. The why is why direct admissions. And direct admissions exists because there is plenty of research that shows us that a college application is a deterrent for some students and families. Now, regardless of our personal feelings on that, that is accurate. That a college application for some families, whether the application itself is a deterrent or the fear of it is a deterrent, whether it's real or perceived, it doesn't matter, that a college app is a deterrent for some students and families. So programs like direct admissions, Tennessee's not the first state to do it. Other states have done it and been successful with it because that deterrent has been shown and it does exist. So we just took that idea and we've grown it out to include financial aid in it. So direct admissions removes the barrier of the college application process, so the student can just directly accept their spot to the institution, answer supplemental questions, and begin the remainder of the college process like most of us are familiar with. So you're exactly right. It is to speed that process up, and it's to reduce some of the anxieties and some of the pressure points and roadblocks that exist for certain students and families across the state.
Thank you.
Yep.
A big thing we also heard last year was that students didn't realize they were eligible for all of this, that they didn't know that this money or opportunity was for them, because it does go to all the different GPAs and ACTs and all the different schools. So some of our students may not have known that they had these opportunities, or they only see like the high achieving students getting their opportunities, and they just don't think that they might be four-year or college material. And then they get this information and they're like, oh man, this is huge for us. And so that was another thing. So yeah, good job, Justin.
So another question that came through, and just for clarity, so you all are probably familiar with, in years past, our agency would partner up with post-secondary institutions to provide a college application fee waiver kit, right? And so all the schools would give us their dates or their days that they were going to give free applications to students across Tennessee. Well, because most of those institutions are now partnering with us with direct admissions, Tennessee Higher Education Commission, our agency, we've moved away from the college application fee waiver kit that we would generate. We would generate and share out with you all, because we're partnering with these schools for direct admissions. So one of the other benefits of the direct admissions program is all the institutions that are participating have agreed to make the application process free for the students. So regardless of whenever they interact with the form, it is free. So I do want to make clear, though, with regards to some of our messaging. So your students are going to get these letters. I'm going to talk about what we're doing in the week of September. Your private schools, I don't want to get into a whole thing of between public and private, but being a product of private schools, most students at private schools tend to be higher achievers, A versus B, when it comes to standardized test scores, GPAs, those kinds of things. And so if your students are attempting to apply to highly competitive institutions, or they need a lot of money, our message is not for them to wait on the direct admissions form if they feel like they need to be early in the process. Now, if you have families at your schools, and I'm sure you do, that need to save the application fees, we have that mechanism available for you all to take advantage of. But our message is not for you or your students to sit on their letters until a mandated date that they have to interact with it at that point. Once they receive their letters in the mail, you're welcome to encourage them to go ahead and scan the codes, interact with their schools, accept their spots, and then the historical college going process that you all are familiar with would kind of take over at that point. So we just want to be clear on that. We do have up on your screen a claim your spot TN week that we have labeled for the 4th week of September. So and I'll talk more about that in just a second. So yes, we're targeting a week where we are asking for corporate organized activities regarding interacting with the direct admissions form, just a more organized way to celebrate the students and accepting their spots to these schools. But it doesn't mean that we are asking you or telling you they need to wait until this particular time to do it. So has a lot of words. So let me talk about college application exploration. Go ahead.
So there was a question in the chat, and I would like for everybody to hear this. So about the GPA upload. So say August or tomorrow, you get the GPA file, you turn it in, and then you have 3 new students that add after that. Just add them to the bottom of the file that you turned in and just resubmit it. You don't have to take any students that leave off. Just add them to the bottom of the page, and then resubmit, and then the process will kind of handle themselves from there. So if you have a GPA upload, you've already turned it in, but you get new students, just add them to the bottom. Everything will be okay. Our system will help work through that part. Sorry, Dustin.
You're good.
To cut across.
I'm sorry. Is there an expiration date on these letters? Because the students will be also pursuing, like early commit. When you apply to a certain university, they want you to commit early. Then you have to. You cannot go pursue other acceptances, other admission letters. So is there an expiration date for this invitation?
So
which
again,
will cut them off from future opportunities for other private or high, another university that's not on the list.
This will not cut them off. This is just information. They have to go to the enrollment page and select the schools that they're interested in. And once they do that, that's when the schools will start to reach out to them. This is not binding because they're selecting multiple schools. And again, if you have a high achieving student and they get one of those selective scholarships, at that point in time, they would just have to reach out to whatever schools they selected on the enrollment page and say, hey, I've accepted another spot. But again, this is not early action. We're using the word early action in terms of getting out there and completing it. But this is not like your early decision, like at Vanderbilt, or like a Gates scholarship or anything like that. But in terms of our enrollment page, it shuts down June 1st. So all admissions offers are eligible until June 1st. And then the financial aid, for the most part, other than MTSU and UTC, should be eligible. And again, they might be eligible for more as they send in transcripts or get newer ACT scores.
So intent to enroll cutoff date is around June 1st to keep all these offers provided here, right?
They must complete their enrollment form by June 1st. June 1st, the enrollment form will shut down. And
to guarantee all these scholarships and everything that they received on this list, right? Through this list.
Yes. So once this June 1st happens, they won't have eligibility to select any of the schools. And just a bit of clarification, until they complete that enrollment form, none of the institutions even know that student exists at that point in time. They must claim their spot to be on the list for those institutions. They're not eligible. They're eligible for every single school on the list that is on their list. But until they claim their spot the 2 community colleges, 2 TCATs, and up to 5 four-year institutions, they have not, like, they can't take this letter and say, hey, I got this letter. They have to go to the enrollment page and claim their spot for that process to start.
Wait. Then what you're saying is this September 21st or 25th, the claim week, is where you have to choose any of the schools that are providing you this offer. So this
No,
week is
so
very important
that is
to get
just
on the list.
So no, that week is just a week. That it's just like a celebratory that we're trying to get as many people to claim their spot. You can claim your spot as soon as you get your letter. You can claim your spot. You can claim it all the way up to June 1st. But after June 1st, you cannot claim that spot. It's gone. And so it's open. It's open up until, like, from when that student gets their letter and their QR code is active, all the way to June 1st.
They cannot claim more than one spot, right? They can only
They can
one
claim
spot.
2. They can claim a spot at 2 community colleges, 2 TCATs, and up to 5 four-year institutions.
2, 2, and 5. Okay.
Yes, so a total of 9. They can't merge. They can't say 1, 1, 7. It's 2, 2, 5. And they can say they don't want to go to any of the institutions, and none of the institutions will reach out to them. But if they claim their spot at all those schools, at a total of 9, they're gonna. That's those 9 schools are who are getting their information to start to communicate or start the application, not the admissions process past our file.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, I was about to call on you. Go for it.
So I'm new to this. I do on the GPA inputting page. Do I have to do anything to register the private school I work at, or we're already in the system? Is there anything I need to do for that?
So as long as if your school is in the list, then you just pick your school in the list and submit. If your school's not in the list, then we'll talk and see what the issue may be. And so that goes into a whole different question of accreditation and all those different things. But again, if you provide the state with Hope tells GPAs at the end as a final, then you're should be on our list in terms of that. Yeah.
Just
So
as a
are we going to, I'm sorry, sir, are we going to have like an online account for our school on the THEC platform thing?
your school participating schools should already have certain codes that's been assigned to your school to be an eligible institution. So let's discuss that offline, because that's a conversation that needs to take place elsewhere other than this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to mention a couple of things. I can only see like 3 or 4 boxes on my screen. So if you need to ask a question, either raise a hand inside the platform or unmute and just interrupt, because sometimes I can't see if you raise your hand. I want to circle back. There was a question from Dana. So would you, and I think this was not answered. If it was, forgive me. So would you say that the scholarship dollar opportunities are increased by direct admissions? From a certain perspective, yes. Not the award amounts. What's increased are the amounts of institutions that will award students money. So does that, maybe that translates? So in other words, most students are locked into a handful of institutions they're entertaining for college. Direct admissions and their letters they're going to receive, as particularly your high achieving students, they're going to get award offers from all across the state. Schools they've never heard of, never thought of, didn't know exist. And so they're going to get money thrown at them that they either weren't expecting, weren't prepared for, never considered. So all this will do is it will open up the opportunity for increased conversation about where students should go with regards to like match and fit. You know, if you have a really quiet student and they want to, whatever particular major that fits them, you may consider, a smaller institution in a more remote part of the state, as opposed to an MTSU like where I graduated. So these letters that they're going to receive are going to give you opportunities for additional conversations and avenues of conversations that you may not have had before, because your students are going to receive offers they never would have considered. So it's not going to be they're going to be offered more money per institution. They're going to be offered more institutions with money at those institutions. So it's just going to give them a wider variety of choice when it comes to their college going selection. I like that question a lot. I'm
I
looking.
like this
Go for it.
question, and Suzette answered it very well. The opportunities for the students based on their letter, it's not like first come first serves. The institutions have told us, like, hey, if they choose us, then we're going to go through the process and move through it. So it's not like it's the opportunities are going to go away if they're in the last pool. It's just, we all have those students and that want to be on the process and get it going. And if you have that student and they're like knocking down your door and it's like, I want to apply right now, they can apply right now. That is totally okay. You know your students, you know where they want to go. This is, again, just an opportunity, like Dustin had said, for the students to get multiple offers and to see what is out there, and to be able to apply to those schools for no cost, no application fees, and then also a lot at the same time. So it's just a good opportunity. But if they're in the later data pool, it doesn't affect, like their eligibility or spots are going away. It's just, we would like, and the universities would like to start this process earlier, and start to move through the process.
But also just keep this information stored in your arsenal for conversations. If a student or their family has they struggle financially, then this is an avenue to save them money, right? And particularly your higher achieving students that may have historically applied to multiple institutions, those applications at 50 to 75 bucks a pop or whatever they are, that's real life savings should they wait on their letter. So it is a balance, right? We want your students to get into the application mill early, particularly if they're looking at these competitive institutions, but you also need to balance that with real world dollars. And if they're applying to multiple institutions or their family, income is a thing that they struggle with, then have that and be aware of that. And so looking at our time, about 4 minutes left, we want to respect your time. We will shut this thing down here in 4 minutes. Let's mention a couple of things as we wrap up. As Mark mentioned, I'm gonna circle back and double down. We are partnering with the National Student Clearinghouse Transcript Exchange to ease the burden in the process of manually submitting transcripts on the back end of this for your graduates as they're going into college. It's a lot of words to say. If you manually have to send or touch each one of your graduates' transcripts, even if you have small class sizes, and would like to consider an alternate method to do that, to streamline that and make it simpler, I'm going to encourage you to scan the QR code, register for a webinar this Friday with National Student Clearinghouse regarding their transcript exchange program. You can at least just come and learn about it and learn if you could take advantage of it. It is free to you, the institution. So I want to make that clear up front that we're not going to ask for any additional money. The program is free. And if you want to come learn about how, if you could become a partner and take advantage of that program and process, we'd love for you to swing by our webinar with them this Friday morning at 10 a.m. Additionally, I'm going to send out a recap webinar email tomorrow to you all that will have the video from today, a bunch of links to a bunch of different things, resources. We will allow you to be able to communicate, we will have our email addresses in there so you can follow up with us directly. We know we have shared quite a bit of information with you today. I make this reference it's like trying to take a sip of water from a fire hydrant. That's basically what's happening. We are aware of that. So please use us as a resource as direct admissions is coming online for everybody, so we can ease the burden of I don't want to become overwhelming for you. This is a good thing for students and for Tennessee. This is where Tennessee is going. This is going to be around. It's going to be our future. So we want to see how we can help you ease into that reality going into this next academic year. So any other questions for us while we have 2 minutes left, and I'll shut it down at 4 o'clock. And I'll send out that follow-up email tomorrow. But any questions from anybody for any clarity before we cut you loose?
Laura is putting some great resources in the chat with links to Tennessee Promise application, our College for TN website, direct admissions website, all the things. There is some facts on there. So if you do have some questions, it has the participating institutions, all that, it is there, along with a few things like a senior checklist that will help your seniors walk through what's next after claiming their spot. But we appreciate you all and your time. Jeff, you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick, moving forward, when is the best time for juniors going to be seniors, or is it seniors in their final year to enroll in the Tennessee Promise?
So
because it
right
only
now,
applies to seniors, right?
It's currently open only to the class of 2027. So this senior class that's currently there. This year we opened it up April 1st for juniors. So this class of 2027, it opened up April 1st for them. We are working through that. It's not going to move back to August in terms of like, it's not going to move towards their senior year more. It will either stay at April 1st. So for your current junior class, it will probably open up April 2027, possibly a little bit earlier, but that communication will come out from us.
Okay.
We're already having that conversation. So your juniors who are, the class of 2028, it's looking like April 2027 again, if not earlier.
Thank you, guys.
There was another
Latanya.
question.
Yeah. Latanya, do you want to unmute and ask a question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. The direct admission, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Is this a new process that you all are doing? Because I've been doing this work for quite some time with juniors and seniors as a career counselor. So I'm so used to the free application month. Now I feel like this is a one-stop shop, and I'm eager to get in front of the computer with one of my students and see how does this look. I think in this webinar, I wish we would have had a step-by-step on the student side to see how this looks going into the platform, because now I'm wondering, what is this going to look like? So I would really like to get a little bit more information, maybe a step-by-step or some screenshots or something, how this would go into the application season.
Yes, and that is something that we're still working through. Our developers are working on adding all the new schools and cleaning a few things up. It will be live by August 17th, and it should be live in the coming weeks. And at that point in time, we'll be able to have screenshots and everything of it. We could share what last year's looked like, but there are some changes that are happening to it. And it wouldn't be fully accurate, but yes, you're right in terms of having a step-by-step for, the enrollment page. I will say this about that. I get this question a lot, that the students, they're not seeing the schools they chose or the school they chose in their THEC student portal. They're not reaching out. That is for aid purposes. We for promise or for direct admissions, we have a totally separate enrollment page. So if they're thinking that they've selected their spots on their Tennessee Promise application by their schools that is only for aid purposes for THEC. They have to go and complete the enrollment page, which is by scanning the QR code or going to the link that is in their THEC student portal. But it is not enough just for them to select the institutions on their Promise application or in the THEC portal. I hope that makes sense. But yes, you're right. A tutorial and step-by-step will be good, and we plan to get that out.
Okay, thank you.
Going once, going twice. Thanks. These have been we knew sharing this with you all would be a lot because you all don't know what we were talking about. So we're very, very grateful for the questions. It keeps us on our toes. Continue the conversations with us after today, asking clarifying questions, getting advice, as particularly after we share out the follow-up tomorrow. We're here to help you be successful with this going into this next academic year. And so if there's nothing else, Mark, you got anything else?
Grateful for you all and your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We hope you have a great rest of your day.